Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back the Women's Bond Club co-president, Fran Kapner.
Thank you. I hope you all are enjoying the evening. I hear from the buzz in the room that it appears that and sounds like you are. Do I have to kiss somebody now? Thank you, Duncan. Thanks to the generosity of each of you and the firms that you represent here tonight, the Women's Bond Club honors one extraordinary woman every year with the Isabel Benham Award and a $20,000 gift to a charity that embodies the WBC goals. Isabel Benham was a pioneering woman, financial analyst, and philanthropist who started her career in the 1930s and became the first woman partner at a Wall Street bond house. Isabel also happens to be the founder of the WBC. This year, we are pleased to honor another trailblazer, Kay Koplovitz. Like Isabel, Kay is a pioneer who continues to influence women entrepreneurs, senior leaders, and board members to reach new levels of success. Kay is the founder of USA Network and the Sci-Fi Channel. So yes, there is a world outside the financial services. She's also chairman and CEO of Koplovitz and Company, and most recently, the co-founder of Springboard Enterprises. Springboard is a national organization that fosters venture capital investments in women-led, high-growth companies with a focus on technology across industries. And we all know that we need more women in technology. Companies selected and presented by Springboard have raised over $5.5 billion. Kay is also co-founder of Bold Cap Ventures, an early-stage fund focused on media, technology, and life sciences. Amongst her very many accomplishments, Kay was also presidentially appointed as chair of National Women's Business Council from 1998 to 2001, and she has co-authored Bold Women, Big Ideas to inspire women entrepreneurs to create wealth through equity. Kay's influence, however, is not just on startups. Kay presently serves as chairman of the board of Liz Claiborne. She's a board member of CA Technologies and Ion Media. Previously, she has served on the boards of Instanet, Oracle, Nabisco, General Ray, and Sun New Media. She also serves as trustee of the Paley Center for Media, as well as Babson College and the University of Wisconsin-Madison, College of Letters and Science. Kay, along with Duncan, is also on the Advisory Council for Moving the Needle. The goals of the Women's Bond Club are to lead and advance women's leadership, grow our intellectual capital, and return values to our companies, our communities, and upcoming generations. Tonight, we are very proud to recognize a visionary woman who, through her extraordinary work, truly embodies the Women's Bond Club mission. So please join me in welcoming and congratulating Kay Koplovitz, the 2012 recipient of the Women's Bond Club Isabel Benham Award.
Fran, thank you for that generous introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the members of the Women's Bond Club for this prestigious award. I really do appreciate it. I'm just really thinking about how people here on Wall Street are gathered together to celebrate the rising stars. And I want to congratulate all those rising stars that we met earlier this evening. You've got a great future in front of you. And also to Carla Harris, who will be coming up shortly for your Merit Award. It's really very much a privilege to share this evening with you as well, Carla. Thank you. You know, I'm not so sure that Betty Cook really knew what she had started when she started this club back in 1921. I'm not so sure she understood what it would grow into. But one thing I do know, she understood the value of human capital. And so did Isabel Benham. And so did our dear friend Mickey Siebert, who was the first woman to have a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. I really do applaud them for being the first to break glass and thank them for their vision. You know, it would be fun to share a little bit of my experience having grown up as an entrepreneur and to talk a little bit about what got me there. But I'm going to do a little elevator pitch on that because I really want to talk about women and how we advance women. But just to say, I was really so astounded with the launch of Sputnik in 1957 when the Russians launched that satellite into space. And I was inspired by JFK, who challenged us all to put a man on the moon in the 60s. But I was ignited by a space scientist and a science fiction writer, Arthur C. Clarke, when as a college student, I heard him talk about geosynchronous orbiting satellites and how they could communicate instantly around the globe and around the world. And it inspired me so much. It was such an idea that was so compelling to me as a college student that I took that and wrote my master's thesis on how communications were going to change because of these satellites. And it led to launching a career to launch Madison Square Garden Sports in 1977, the forerunner to USA Network, which I renamed in 1980, and had the great privilege of building it into a multi-billion-dollar business. So it really is a wonderful thing to be able to access capital, to be able to build businesses, and to live your dreams, something that I was very privileged to do. And I hope the rising stars in the room get to live their dreams as well. But when I was leaving USA Network in 1998, I got a call from then President Bill Clinton, who asked me to chair the National Women's Business Council. I really wasn't that interested in doing that, even though I had testified for them a number of times. And I thought about it, and I said, no, I didn't really think I wanted to do that, because it was really for monitoring and reporting to Congress on the progress of women's businesses. And to tell you the truth, I was more interested in helping women build their businesses than I was in monitoring them. So, but I convinced him that that was something that would be worthy of doing, and he agreed. So I did take that position. And that led to the launch of Springboard Enterprises. That's a venture catalyst organization that identifies, trains, and presents women entrepreneurs in high-growth businesses to raise venture capital and to help build out their businesses. So it's a very important mission, and I think very aligned with the mission here of the Women's Bond Club. People often asked us, well, why did you have to start this club for women? Why did you have to start this organization for women? And you know, it was 1999 then. Money was pouring over the transom. $104 billion that year in venture capital. Why would women need a special hand on that? Well, let me tell you the fact. 1.7% of that capital backed women. I said we've got to change the picture. And so we did launch Springboard, and we put out a call for applications for women to submit to us to be presented and trained by Springboard, an organization that was just in its startup phase itself. And, you know, a lot of VCs said to us, yeah, we really never see any women. And I thought to myself, well, is that true? And I went out and I went to venture forums, would rarely, if ever, see a woman presenting their company, and you certainly wouldn't see them in the audience in investing. And I thought, well, maybe they're right. But we went ahead anyway. We put out our application. We were hoping to get 100 applications. So at least we could have something to choose from, that we could maybe present 10 companies. And 1 week before the applications were due, we only had 50. And I said, oh, maybe they were right. Maybe we won't find them. But the application deadline came. 350 applications arrived in our office. And we said, holy cow, what are we going to do now? We've got to qualify these. Well, we were very fortunate to get the students from Stanford Business School and Berkeley. We were doing this in Silicon Valley. And to get them to qualify and bring it down to 26 companies led by women for our program. And we presented those 26 companies on January 27th, 2000. I can assure you that that had never happened before. When the VC showed up, every presenter was a woman, something that had never happened before. And then you know what happened? 22 of those companies got funded. 2 of them merged their businesses. 1 woman sold her business, and 1 didn't get funded. And I can assure you, nothing like that had ever happened before either. So, it was really a great privilege to look at, accelerating the growth of these women-led businesses. They're in technology, biotech, life sciences, diagnostics, devices, digital media. They're in those types of businesses. So we knew at that juncture that we really had something, and we went forward with Springboard. And in the intervening 12 years, since that time, we have trained and presented 481 companies that, as you heard, have raised over $5.5 billion in capital. But here's the important thing. Over 80% of those companies are in business today. We've had over a third of them have had positive liquidity events for their investors, including 10 IPOs. Half of them in biotech. Some you might have heard of, iRobot, Constant Contact, Zipcar, and companies like that. So this is really raising the bar for women, and I hope that it is a lesson for women in the room as well, because it was human capital and is human capital that connects all these people. But I would like to try to make it kind of a little bit more real for people in the room today. So I'd like to use an example of one of these 481 companies so far, the company of Joan Fallon, who happens to be a pediatric chiropractor. Well, in her practice, she was seeing a lot of children with autism. And she was doing her research on these children, and she started to see a common thread. That was they were digesting only carbohydrates, not proteins. And she began to do further research on them. And she began to realize that they didn't have the enzyme to digest the protein needed for cognitive behavior, including speech. So she went around to venture capitalists and tried to raise some funds to put this product into the marketplace. And of course, it has to go through the FDA. But the typical VC said to her, gee, you're not trained in this kind of diagnostic research. You've never built a company before. You couldn't possibly take something through the FDA. You're not trained to do any of that. Goodbye and good luck. That's what she got over and over. But then she came to Springboard in the fall of 2009. And we have a very, very strong advisory group in biotech. And these women looked at this and they said, boy, Joan, this is really unconventional, but we see something here. And one of our board members and her fund, Bell Capital, funded her initial research, going further into her testing. And they decided to really back her. And one of the very first things they did for her was they introduced her to an expert in fast-tracking things through the FDA. Another entrepreneur who was in the same class with her, and this is why women in this class really should stick together and learn to work together as they move forward in their careers. One of these women said, you know what? I've got an investor in the UK, and I think he's going to like what you're doing, so I'll introduce you to him. And she did. And he invested in her company, CureMark, and he's still her biggest investor today. Well, you might ask yourself, what is her drug going to do? Her drug is really to embed it in a very easily digested product that children can digest easily. What they have found in their research is that after a relatively short period of time, children start to speak more freely. And after several months' time, they rise to age-appropriate speech in any number of children. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this is a cure for autism, because it's not. But it is a cure for one of the symptoms of children with autism, and that is their lack of cognitive speech. And and what they're learning is these children really are learning at age-appropriate levels. They just can't communicate this. So this could be a tremendous breakthrough, and one is an example, I think, of really what human capital can really bring to the table, and why it's so important to have mentoring programs and have coaches and have the mentors. And these are not just people from the venture market. These are people in corporations like those here this evening. They're the men and the women at those corporations who connect these companies, who can provide coaching, who can be investors, because a lot of companies use these programs for their R&D, and they invest in companies as part of their R&D program. They can be business partners and help the companies grow. They can be future acquirers for these companies. So this is building the whole 360 degrees, I think, that comes around when we think about how to build out companies, how to build out careers in your case. 360 degrees is really very, very important for the connections to be made. And I believe it's not just the corporations. I believe it's the boards of those corporations as well. Why? Because boards with the proper amount of diversity to them really see the value of working with companies like the ones we represent at Springboard. And I think it's really tremendously important, Duncan, for the program that the New York Stock Exchange is running and moving the needle. I'm partnering on that with you, and I think it's a very important aspect of creating this 360 degrees, connecting people from the very smallest startup companies that are meant to be big. And by the way, I never put women and small in the same sentence. I always refer to big companies starting small, because I want people to realize that women are capable of this kind of leadership, whether it's building companies, working in corporations, financing companies, the whole spectrum. It's really dramatically important to do all this. So I think it is that our mission is so closely aligned with the Women's Bond Club and Springboard. I'm truly grateful for this award, and I'm very thankful that Springboard will be the recipient of the grant of this, because our work continues to help to build women, their leadership, their companies, their wealth, and they do come back to help those and pay it forward. So thank you so much for this honor this evening. I do appreciate it. Thank you.